All right, this is Daf Yomi in motion number 840. Gimel in Bava Basra, and we're going to be speaking about Hezek Riyah Shmei Hezek Olav Shmei Hezek. More on the Aleph, the top line. So we just had in the previous Daf a lashon of how to understand the lashon of Shnam Shirotzu La Sos Machitza. I started off trying to understand the word Machitza. I first thought it meant Guda, that it means really they wanted to make a stone wall together, and therefore it has to be made in the middle. And the Gemara says, not necessarily, maybe Machitza means they just wanted to deal each one owns of the chutzner, but they don't really want to build a stone wall between each other. The Gemara has a lishna achrina that is just almost the same, but it just turns them around. It starts trying to, assuming that the lashon mechitza means making a pluta, making a division, just dividing the chutzner between the two to know how much each person has of the chutzner. And then the second mahalach would be that they really wanted to make a rock wall between them, between the chutzeros. So the more begins, lishna achrina omrei uva, that they said, savrua, the chachamim thought, talmidim, my mechitza, what is meant by mechitza in the Mishnah? Plukta. It means a division in their chutzner. I mean, just to demarcate how much each person owns in the chutzner, but not necessarily to make to build a stone wall. And the reason we would assume that it's plukta is because, first of all, it says ratzu la sois. The word la sois is not necessarily the way you would go about building it. You would have said liv nois, but la sois, machitza. And also, there's a pasuk that says the kidduchasib. It's a pasuk in Bamidbar. It's talking about dividing the Nechasim, the animals. V'tihei mechzas ha'eda min hatzoin, half of the flock min hatzoin shlosh me'os elef should be ushloshim elef yeshiva alafim v'chamesh me'os. Like, so that would be of the flock, just like dividing how much is half of the flock, but it's not really physically separating them. So therefore, even though the word mechzas isn't the word mechitza, but it's similar, therefore we can see that mechitza can mean that you're just dividing to know how much each person should have. What happened once they wanted to divide the area? As soon as they wanted to, and then suddenly the Mishnah is therefore saying that they had a chiyuv to build a wall. As soon as they wanted to, they decided to demarcate how much each person owns. So that could only be for the reason why. Once they knew whose was whose, suddenly they have to build a wall. Because that's mashma that if not, then they'll be damaged. Each one will be damaging the other, as each one will be using their part of the chutzner. And that's because Hezek Riyah Shmei Hezek, it's mashma. So Gemara says, so we see from that Hezek Riyah Shmei Hezek. Gemara now goes to the other side. No, maybe the Shnam Shirotzu La Sos Mechitza doesn't mean just to the division. It means to actually build a rock wall. My Mechitza, what does it mean that Shnam Shirotzu La Sos Mechitza? Guda. Maybe it means they wanted to build a stone wall. Kiritnan, like we learn in a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah in Kalayim that says machitzas hakerem. This is going to prove that the word guda means a physical rock wall, and that's that the word mechitza. We're talking about a mechitza being a physical rock wall, because it says in that Mishnah over there, mechitzas hakerem, shenifert, so that broke down. So that was clearly talking about like a built-up wall, not just a division, a demarcated division between the fields. So we see here mechitza, which means right. a real rock wall. Omer lo gadur. The bala tavur. The din is by Kalayim that when there is a field of tavur next to a kerem, a vineyard, that the bala kerem is supposed to distance himself, be merachik from the bala tavur, from the state Lavan, 4 amos. That'll keep the shroshim of the kerem, of the vineyard, of the vines away from the shroshim of the tavua, and also he'll be able to drive his machines, bring his machines along that like path around that area between the two fields. So that's what he's supposed to do. And later the Gemara is going to talk about why the responsibility of the bala kerem to stay away from the bala tavua, but that's the din. So then now if they have a wall, then both fields, the bala tavua and the bala kerem, are allowed to plant their product right up to the wall. So then when it fell down, so now there's a problem that if it's not quickly rebuilt, so then the tavua might grow 1/200 while it's mingling with the kerem, and then that will be an issue of kalayim. So and then it's the responsibility of the bala kerem to rebuild the wall so that doesn't happen. And if he doesn't rebuild it, so then the isser, then the tavua can become usser, and it'll be the responsibility of the bala kerem. And that's what the case is. But here is the proof that the word mechitza means a physical rock wall. So mechitzas, where Gimel Amud Aleph. So the word mechitzas, therefore, that's the raya from here that the word mechitzas means a physical rock wall. Down the Gemara about 6 lines down, the Gemara that Gimel Amud Aleph. This is a kem shnifritza omer lo. So the bala soda, the bala tavua, told the bala kem to fix the wall. Ligdor omer lo gadur. That would have been him down. So omer lo, the bala tavua, told the bala kem gadur. That would have been building it for the 3rd time, but he was nisyayish. He didn't build it. Hemenu nisyash hemenu below godra, and he didn't build it. Harizeh kidesh, that's kidesh, is the isser kalayim, and mechayev be'achriyus, and the bala kerem is chayev for the responsibility. There's the Gemara bringing a raya that lashon mechitza can mean lashon of actually building a stone wall. And so this will be the second lush, the lishna basra of this lishna achrina. So the Gemara says v'taima. So now we're going back to the Mishnah of v'taima. The whole reason why we see there's a chiyuv between the two shutfim to build the wall is whether we this is going with the first this lishna achrina. We said it was this is actually going on the second lishna basra of this lishna achrina. We just said that the mechitza that we're talking about is a wall. Not the plut alone, not a division, not a theoretical division of how much each person owns in the chutzah, but the actual wall. So the Gemara says, we see there's a chiyuv. Once they shnaim shirotzu la'asos mechitza, they have to build a wall. So now according to this Mishnah Basra, it's a wall that they're building. So the Gemara says, v'taima dirotzu. Reason why they have to build a wall is because they wanted to build a wall. They agreed to build a wall. Now suddenly they have to build. Once they agreed, now they have to build it. If they had never agreed to build it, they wouldn't have had to build it. Meaning there's no problem of one seeing the other person do his activities in his chutzah. That means there's no problem of hezekriya. So it must be that hezekriya is lav shmei hezek. So this is what more says. Taima de rotzu. Halo rotzu. But if they hadn't made this agreement and wanted to make the agreement, aim mechayiv, and also you can't mechayiv him to any one person to build a wall. True, if we're dealing with a chatzah sheyesh bodin chaluk, one can force the other, but maybe one can't force the other to build a rock wall. Maybe he can only force the other to make simanim of where each chatzah ends, to demarcate, to divide the areas, but he can't force if it's a chatzah sheyesh bodin chaluk, but he can't necessarily You might think that, but he might not necessarily be able to force him to build a rock wall if they hadn't been agreed upon a rock wall. So how but mashma if they hadn't, right? Alma. So what do we see from that? It has a griyat lav shmei hezek, that if other than the fact that they agreed, then they wouldn't have been. Nobody could force the other to build a rock wall, and they could still look at each other as each other is using their chutzah. So it must be that and obviously if they can look at each other, then each one's tashmish of their chutzah is less in private things there. And so it must be, and there's no problem with that. It must be that it has a griyat lav shmei hezek. More says, if that's what we're supposed to learn, if we're going to go with the mahalach,
Party. Really too big.
Tomorrow says if we're going with the halach that we're talking about a real wood, they're agreeing to build a real stone wall, and therefore hezek is lav shmei hezek. So yachi boinin es hakaiso. So then, like we had before. So then, Mishnah say that once they agree, shnam shvatzu lasos mechitza boinin es hakaiso. Why would they have said boinin es hakaiso? If we're saying now that mechitza means a rock wall, so then they wouldn't have to say boinin es hakaiso. They could have just said boinin oisa. But in Oisomi Boile, they should have said, but in it, build it. So that's a problem. That's mashma that's not the way we're supposed to learn the Mishnah. We're not mashma that we're not supposed to learn the Mishnah. That mechitza means a Buddha. Rather, so what the word says itself. Elamai plukta. Otherwise, so how are we supposed to learn the Mishnah plukta? That we're supposed to just put the chutzah into the parts, and so they have. If that's the way we're supposed to learn it, if they shnam shrotu lasos mechitza, and that mechitza means just to divide it. So if then that's a problem also. Ihachi shrotu lasos mechitza. Why should it say that they wanted to make a mechitza? It should have said shrotu lasos, shrotu lachsos. Shirotzu lachsos miboile, it should have said. That would have been more appropriate if we were talking about just making a division between the chutzahs. So that also doesn't work. That neither lashon seems to be working.
Thank you, Damianchi. That's how people talk.
So that's the kasha. More answers? No, that's not a problem. That's the way people talk. People say, because the lashon was shnayim shrotu lasos mechitza. So also the fact that lashon lasos is not necessarily mashma that they want to build together. So shnayim shrotu lasos mechitza. That's the way people talk. Navi plugta, come, let's make a division. So therefore, that could be used, that could work. So mashma, the Gemara is coming out, is leaning to saying that our Mishnah is talking about they just wanted to make a division. They didn't want to actually build a wall together. And therefore, that it's mashma that hezek is shnei hezek. So the Gemara says, the E hezek